Welcome back to the Quad, everyone. I'm pleased to be here with all of you and my amazing co-hosts, Emily Schrader, human rights activist and journalist, Vivian Berkovich, former ambassador of Canada to Israel and founder of the State of Tel Aviv podcast, and Ashira Solomon, who is not in the studio with us today. She's a political commentator and moderator. So welcome back. We actually had a very different show planned. Very different, right, Emily? And we were going to talk about all sorts of things, which hopefully we can talk about next week. But then we heard the news that we may have a deal for the hostages, for some of the hostages, for the children and their mothers, with all sorts of details coming out about this deal. And so we couldn't talk about anything else except for something which is grappling the nation, something which has taken us. I said yesterday in an interview that we're smiling with tears in our eyes because it's such a difficult thing that this government is having to do. It's a Sophie's choice. And I know we have varying views here with our panelists, with our co-hosts about what's going on. So I want to start with you, Emily. How do you feel about the fact that Israel is now going to be doing a deal with Hamas to liberate, let's say, 50 hostages, not quite clear, it's 50, 52, 54, children who are siblings, which is part of that deal, and their mothers, in exchange for 3-to-1 ratio, 150 Palestinian prisoners who are people who've stabbed, have thrown boulders like this, tried to kill Jews. They didn't quite kill the Jews, but they did try to kill Israelis. And the deal for 5 days of no activity in the Gaza Strip, as we're in the middle of the momentum of the war. What do you think?
I mean, I think that there's no right answer. I mean, it's a lose-lose. We lose if we accept, and we lose if we don't accept. And the silver lining is that hopefully through all of this, we will see the release of 50-plus women and children. Obviously, that's the main objective here, but it's not an easy decision, because the fact of the matter is these terms are being dictated technically by Hamas, and I think that that's extremely problematic. Not to mention the fact that when we're talking about releasing hostages, and you already differentiate between which hostages are more valuable, so to speak, for lack of a better term, than others. I mean, what about the rest of the hostages?
You're dividing the country.
The entire world should be united against Hamas, and I'm including the Arab world. All of them should be demanding that Hamas release all the hostages. This is the problem. Qatar is not an intermediary. Qatar is Hamas, and that's the problem, because you don't have a broker for this deal. So it's fundamentally biased to begin with. At the end of the day, is it the best strategic military decision? I don't know. And, that's not my area of expertise, so it's not my place to say that's the wrong thing to do. And I'm sure that the IDF will deal with whatever they can. But the thing is, we've been here before. We've seen Israel release over 1,000 hostages, even for one, in the case of Gilad Shalit. We released Yahya Sinwar, who was the mastermind of the October 7th attack. So when are we going to stop releasing prisoners? And why was the prisoner release not enough? They also want a ceasefire? It just seems like a lot.
Vivian, what do you think about the terms of the deal with Hamas?
Well, whatever it is, I mean, none of this surprises me. And I agree, it's a Solomonic task. It's a Sophie's choice. You guys brought in all the great metaphors. But, the fact is, we're in this mess because we did not defend our borders on October 7th. And from the very beginning, the government, when they started to speak, it took them a few days to find a voice, said, we're going to destroy Hamas's military capability, and we're going to liberate all of the hostages, right?
Yeah.
And here we are 6 weeks out with this gut-wrenching theater, this theater of the macabre, with Hamas yanking our chain. So it's very difficult. Like Emily says, she's not a military expert. I'm not either, except I'm prepared to, rely upon the extensive military analysis that I have read and heard. And it wasn't until very recent days the military sort of started to shift and support this approach. But for weeks, they were saying no.
What changed?
No, it's all...
What do you think changed?
I think So I think that, but I want to say one more thing about the terms that's very important. While we were waiting to start the show, I was looking and saying, oh, wow. All of a sudden they're saying it's going to be more than 50 hostages released, could be up to 80.
Yeah, 100 I heard.
BS. BS. So, and the other thing that's critical, this isn't just a 4-day ceasefire.
Yeah.
This is also, Israel has agreed for 6 hours each day to no drone or aerial supervision, oversight, whatever you want to call it, of Gaza, meaning, of course, that they can move hostages, they can move equipment, they can move their terrorists, they can do whatever they want on the ground. We'll have no idea. That's insane. I don't think you have to be a military expert to say that's insane. So what do I think changed? I think that we have a prime minister who, in spite of his mellifluous voice and, great manner before the camera, is known to be indecisive. He has been up against these walls many times before, and his pattern is to do exactly this. It is to call some sort of ceasefire, and he just doesn't seem to have the mettle, like not metal, but, the mental fortitude to really stand up and do what has to be done here.
But Vivian, he's not the only one. But he's got the defense minister, and he's got the chief of staff.
I think it's external pressure. It's external pressure on Israel to compromise, and that's ridiculous. I really think it's ridiculous from the international community. I'm so frustrated by what we're seeing.
I totally agree with you. And, I feel like we're at this kind of pivot point where people are starting to understand, holy crap, these guys really are, like, look what's going on in the West. It's insane.
Ashira. Sorry. Let me just ask Ashira.
Yeah, no, let her get a word in. Absolutely.
Also, Ashira's in Europe right now, so maybe she can give us a different perspective from her point of view from there. Ashira, you're looking at what's going on. You just left the country. What do you think about all of this?
I think this deal is incredibly weak on behalf of the Israeli government. I think it's insane that we are giving so many concessions to Hamas. It makes me beg the question of who really has the upper hand here. I'm happy to see 50 hostages come home. And from, a standpoint of if that was my family member, I would want to, trade anything to bring my son, daughter, or family member home. But from a military standpoint, and I'm also not a military expert or a hostage expert as well. I just don't understand why Israel is giving so many concessions to Hamas. They're going to give us 50 hostages for 150 terrorists. Why can't it be 150 to 150 at least? Like Vivian said, we're going to stop having drones over Gaza. So we are allowing Hamas to have the upper hand. They're controlling the deal. We're a democratic country, first of all, making negotiations with a terrorist group. That's one thing. We should be pushing them by force to give us back our hostages, and we should definitely have at least 1-to-1 when everyone in the world wants to talk about proportionality. There's no proportionality here. So I think this deal is weak. I'm not happy with it at all. On behalf of the family members of seeing the hostages come home, I completely understand. I would also want any chance to get my family member back, but I think this deal is weak.
I think it's also important to note, like, when it comes to hostage negotiations or prisoner exchanges, we've just seen the United States capitulate to the Islamic Republic, giving them the release of $6 billion in assets in exchange for hostages. This is hostage diplomacy.
For 5 hostages.
For 5 hostages, that's right.
$6 billion. They've set the price.
And the problem with this that we see from Hamas, which of course is a proxy of the Islamic Republic, and that we see from the Iranian regime everywhere it touches in the Middle East, is that this is their strategy, that they're using the values of the West, they're using democratic values and the fact that we value life in order to advance their anti-democratic and human rights violating agenda. And the more we play that game, the more they're going to succeed in the end, the longer it goes, because that's their entire strategy. So at what point are we going to say, Khalas, we're not doing this. We're not playing this game.
Just to push back on all of you at the moment, my biggest fear was that if the longer we wait, the less chance we have of bringing them home. the less chance we have of them surviving. God knows what conditions they're under. And that's why, and of course...
Laura, yeah, but we don't even have proof of life.
Exactly.
We don't even know how are still alive.
Well, that was supposed to be part of the deal. Part of the deal, you're 100% right, Ashira, and part of the deal was supposed to be that in this deal, the International Red Cross goes and gets us proof of life of all of the hostages.
But they don't even know where they are.
No, but the International Red Cross has said, oh, we don't know anything about that. So Netanyahu says, yes, this is part of the deal that the ICRC goes and checks up on whoever they can find and gives us proof of life. And they're like, nobody told us anything. So what's really going on here?
Well, so exactly. Like, I actually tend to believe the Red Cross, and I'm no Red Cross fan, but, I can imagine them all in a room and saying, yeah, and this is... It's just not being real, okay? So they all decided that term is going to be honored. Nobody bothered to tell the Red Cross. But, we're all, like, let's be real here. Our hearts ache for every single one of those hostages. Absolutely. And there's no question, if I had a family member or a loved one in there, what I would want. We all want them out. The other thing that Hamas is doing, though, they're saying, okay, women and children, we're going to let them out. But in addition to the fact that we now know that they don't know where 30, 40, or 50 people are, most of whom are women and children, that they were unable, as of last night, to give us, the minimal information of those they're going to release, gender, nationality, and age, I think. I just want to be very clear.
Yes.
Of these 50, there are still 190 being left.
Yes.
Elderly, all the men, elderly people, sick people, a lot of women, a lot of mothers, and a lot of children. And this, to me, is just like not good enough.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is that I've been reading that, first of all, some of them are in the hands of Islamic Jihad. And so it's not all Hamas. And we know that Islamic Jihad and Hamas are two different entities, even though they're both murderous, genocidal organizations. But also I've heard, and this is very disturbing, that some of them are in the hands of criminal gangs.
Yeah, I've also read this.
And so if it's criminal gangs and we could pay them off.
Not to mention the fact the Iranian regime is trying to get some of them, if they haven't already.
If they haven't already. We had...
But Fleur, I want to just, you asked earlier, so what do you think's changed? And I'll tell you one of the biggest things that's changed is this whole mess has dragged on longer than anyone thought. And on some level, I think Hamas and PIJ and whoever else is holding these people, but Hamas in particular, is finding, geez, man, it's really hard to kind of, keep these people alive.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort.
Yes.
You got to feed them, basic hygiene, blah, blah, blah.
Medical.
And I think that, they've got other things they should be doing, like annihilating Israel.
Yeah, they should be busy with that.
Their core mission, right?
Yeah. I think the other silver lining, Emily mentioned earlier, that the only silver lining is that we get 50 hostages home. I think the other silver lining is that Bibi did say the goal is and the mission is to still destroy Hamas, and that this is not an effort to de-escalate and to go into a permanent ceasefire as the international community is calling for. So
but how are we going to get there after 5 days of ceasefire? You think the international pressure isn't going to increase?
Absolutely. I think that all of these points are valid, and I think the whole country is discussing things amongst themselves, and we're all still extremely saddened in the middle of such deep tragedy. And I want to move on and talk to one of the mothers of the hostages who has two young boys, 12 and 16, who are in there and who were on this list that we don't even know whether it's verified or whether it's been confirmed, but they appeared on a list last night as hostages to be released.
6:30 in the morning on October 7th, we woke up to the red alert, which we're unfortunately all used to. I was at another kibbutz on the Gaza border. My community is at Nir Oz, but I have a boyfriend, a partner at another kibbutz, Sufa, which is also near the border. And the boys were with their father. The arrangement between us is that when on his weekends, they sleep at my place. It's only 400 meters away from his house. We're members of the same community and live in the same small village. And on a normal world, in a normal life. It seems like a good arrangement.
Absolutely.
They're not little kids, you know, they're young teenagers.
Yeah.
Anyway, we all woke up to the red alert, and I immediately called them to make sure that they were in the safe room. Obviously, their father also called them. And the eldest, who's the safe room is his bedroom, told me very confirmedly that he made sure that his little brother is in the safe room. He woke him up and got him out of bed. And then I started talking to them every couple of minutes just to see that they were okay. There were hundreds of rockets and missiles shot at us at that point. But again, this is a situation that we're all used to it. It sounds
sadly used to it. Sadly used to it.
We're all, yeah, exactly. About half an hour or so later, they called me and said that they hear gunshots outside their room, outside the house. And I said, it's probably the army coming to protect them. Little did I know, I could hear gunshots outside the house I was in, just 15 kilometers away. And then I started getting texts from other members of the community saying terrorists are walking outside, wearing IDF uniform, trying to break into houses and taking people out. I called neighbors and friends and anyone I could, and of course their father, to ask them to go there and be with them, but no one could go outside. There were over 100 terrorists walking outside. And at this point, it was each to themselves, every family to their own faith. I must say that we're a community that is so used to being like a big family that, you know, it just gives each other without taking back anything.
I think people don't really understand what kibbutz life is like.
Yeah.
It is one big family, isn't it? Everybody takes care of everyone else.
That's very true. And everyone knows everyone, and everyone knows everyone's kids. And you can walk outside and, you know, the kid can't get lost because everyone knows who it belongs to. We usually leave our doors open. We don't lock because it seems pointless. It's obviously a very naive perception of life, but this is how we preferred and chose to live our lives. Anyway, at about 2 hours after this whole started, they called me and said they hear someone breaking into the house, breaking the door, and walking in the house. And a few minutes later, I could hear the door of the safe room open. Not before my eldest, who was a strong lad, held the door like hell, trying to keep them safe. The doors don't lock. The safe rooms don't lock because they're built against rockets, missiles, and earthquakes. So they actually built to be reopened from the outside in case someone is stuck in. But he fought for the door, and he couldn't. They forced the door out, and I could hear my youngest on the phone. I was online on the phone. As they broke in, I could hear people speaking in Arabic. And my youngest said, "Don't take me, I'm too young." And then the line went off. That was the last I heard of them.
Renana,
it's been 13 days now, and I don't know anything about them. I heard nothing. I don't know if their whereabouts. I don't know whether they sleep, eat. I don't know. I don't even know if they're alive. Later, we found out that their father and his girlfriend were also taken hostage.
So their father's also a hostage?
Yeah, their father and his girlfriend are also taken hostage, as are 80 people from our community from the age of 6 months to the age of 86. So my hopes are that at least they're not alone and they're together with someone who knows them. It's been almost 2 weeks now, and there's no sign of life from them.
Renana, how do you function? What do you do every day? Do you sleep? Do you eat? What do you do?
Mornings and nights are the hardest. It's very hard to go to sleep not knowing whether they're going to sleep, where they're going to sleep, if they're getting any sleep. And again, in the morning, you don't know where they wake up and what they wake up to. But I force myself every morning to get up, to fight for bringing them back, hoping that this is the last morning I will have to fight and they'll be back again and again and again. You said when you started living it every day, but we're living it every moment and every minute and every hour of every day.
Renana, you've been speaking to the authorities, the people in charge of this terrible hostage tragedy. Do they give you any hope that something can be done?
My only hope relies on the fact that there are so many hostages and they're all civilians, and quite a big proportion out of them are children under the age of 18, that you cannot leave that amount of uninvolved civilians left captured by terrorist organization in the Gaza Strip. That's the main hope.
So honestly, the most difficult thing that I've had to do in the last few weeks is speak to the parents of the hostages, because there's really no words and there's no way, there's not enough empathy in this world, there's not enough tears to cry in this world for what they're going through. But now I want to move on from our dear Emily in Tel Aviv to Emily in Gaza. Yes. Emily, our very, very brave co-host, decided to go and actually report from Gaza. You went into Gaza. Here is Emily in Gaza.
So we're now in the Gaza Strip. We just passed through one of the fences behind me. You can see in the distance it was one of the areas where the terrorists actually crossed into Israel to massacre Israeli civilians. So we are here in the Gaza Strip, and right now what we're witnessing are thousands of Palestinians right here behind me who are getting safe passage to southern Gaza. Now, these are some of the same civilians who were threatened by Hamas. We know that Hamas has also opened fire at Palestinian civilians who were seeking to get to safety following the IDF's instructions. And now we see here in northern Gaza that the IDF is on the ground assisting to protect Palestinian civilians here on the ground, helping them get to safety, even while they are working on combating and destroying Hamas in the Gaza Strip.
So I think all of us ladies have a lot of questions for you, Emily. How did you decide that this is actually what you wanted to do and you wanted to report from Gaza? Because I would have been terrified.
I mean, I was, first off. Let's set the record straight about that. But, you know, I saw that the army had made significant gains when it comes to essentially controlling northern Gaza. And I also saw that a lot of people were denying what's happening. I mean, we've been dealing with this since day one. We've spoken about it, that there are so many people who have the evidence clearly in front of them and they refuse to believe what's in front of them, even when it's coming from Hamas. So I wanted to go because I believe it's important to see for yourself with your own eyes what's actually happening and report about it the best that I can. So when I had an opportunity to go, I did go in. I embedded with the IDF on a specific mission. They're not just letting people walk into Gaza.
Were you the only journalist or that?
No, there were only 3 of us though, from other international channels. Not very many journalists have gone in yet, although quite a few Israelis have.
Could you tell us anything about the particular mission you were accompanying?
Yeah, it was a humanitarian aid mission. And basically what they were doing throughout the day was they were accompanying or ensuring the safety in 360 degrees around Palestinian civilians who were going from the north to the south on Salah ad-Din Road.
So you were essentially bearing witness to the safe zone that the IDF created in order to help evacuate Gazans.
Yeah. And you know what was really interesting about it is you have soldiers, and not just the group I was with, but soldiers in 360 degrees ready to go with, you know, weapons and everything to protect them from Hamas. So it's
irony.
It's crazy.
Shira and Vivian, I'm sure you ladies have lots of questions for Emily. Let's ask her one each.
I just want to commend you on your bravery. When you sent that clip over, I was like, wow, I'm so happy to like sit next to this woman. She is so brave, because I don't think I could have done that. I want to know, were you able to speak to Palestinians or get a feel of how they are feeling about the war? Are they feeling like the blame is on Hamas? Are they feeling like the blame is on the Israeli government? Just what's the feel around the Palestinians?
So I wasn't really able to speak to Palestinian civilians because of the security situation. I will say, like, the entire vibe for the few hours that I was in Gaza was very tense, obviously.
Of
like,
course.
it's very high risk, and you can tell even from the soldiers that are responsible for accompanying press on this mission. It was tense the whole time, and I did ask if I could go speak to them, and they said, like, we can't guarantee your protection because we don't know who all of them are. We don't know if they have weapons. We don't know. So on the ground, I wasn't able to speak to them. That being said, I have spoken to many Palestinians through social media, and I've also been tracking the conversations that are happening. And I will say that I think for the first time when it comes to Israel's operations against Hamas/Islamic Jihad in Gaza, that we're seeing a lot of opposition. We're seeing a lot of opposition from Palestinians. Unfortunately, there are many who do support Hamas, but a lot of them are fed up.
Well,
the more that work with us against Hamas, the better for everybody.
We're there to liberate Gaza from Hamas.
Yeah.
Vivian, did you have a question for Emily in Gaza?
Yeah, I want to know if she'll go back in with me when I return in 2 weeks.
Of course. We'll go to Al-Shifa Hospital.
Because, okay, I'm there. I'm totally down. You know, it's interesting you say that, you know, obviously you felt as safe as you can in that sort of situation, right? Because you're with the IDF and embedded with them. But you said it's really tense. No interaction directly with the people, which totally makes sense. But what did you get back from them? I mean, people are walking by. They must be looking, you know, did you get what you thought were maybe hostile looks? Did you get anything remotely friendly? Can you kind of drill down just into the more human interaction level? Yeah, the mood.
I mean, from what I saw, it was very calm, and which I didn't expect because I've seen like different checkpoints in Israel, and it's much more chaotic. Even culturally, it's more chaotic.
Right.
It wasn't like that. It was remarkably calm. Everything seemed very, very organized, and there didn't seem to be, I'm sure that there is, but there didn't seem to be any tension between and I saw hundreds of Palestinians like crossing through this area. I didn't see anything at all that was negative. I mean, these poor people, they've if they're crossing now, they've been stuck there for weeks. And
no fear on their part with respect. I mean, here they are, like the irony.
No, they weren't scared of the IDF.
They're scared.
They weren't scared of the IDF.
Hamas. The IDF tanks are actually protecting them.
Yeah.
It's really beggars belief and how the world is not seeing it. So we really thank you, Emily, for going there, to bearing this witness and being able to come back and tell the viewers of the Quad.
I just want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
So the mission was focused on the humanitarian aspect of it, but I will say that on the way into that area and on the way out, we saw a lot of destroyed buildings, a lot.
Yeah.
Amongst them was a girls' high school where the soldier I was with, who was accompanying me in the vehicle, had found a terror tunnel underneath
A girls'
girls' high school, yeah. So this is the situation we're dealing with. It's not like this was a safe zone that wasn't controlled by Hamas. In fact, the opposite. They had found tunnels and weapons caches next to schools, in schools, under schools. They had found rocket launching sites in the mosque right next to the area where we were. So this is truly a battle zone. And I think people need to understand that that's what we're dealing with. And as many journalists or whoever else as it takes to get that message out, that's what we have to do.
I love the fact that we've gone from us pushing back on the numbers of the Gaza so-called health ministry to now everything Israel puts out, well, it hasn't been verified by us. This is from the IDF. The hypocrisy of the whole thing, terror organization versus country and army. Let's now move on to one of our favorite and most popular segments of this show. And every week we have so much incredible material to choose from, and that is Scumbag of the Week. So, Emily,
I'm starting
Yes,
us off.
starting
Okay.
with you.
Okay. So, I mean, she's a scumbag of many weeks,
Yes,
if I'm
she
being
is.
completely honest. But Candace Owen.
Yeah, very surprising, though. I used to like her. What happened?
I mean, I never really liked her.
Okay, so tell us why she's your scumbag of the
Yeah,
week.
I'm on Team Emily on that.
All right.
But no, she's.
What happened? What does she do now?
I mean, she's done a lot of things. A few years ago, she was trying to say how Hitler wasn't that bad because there were also good things. I mean, anybody who's trying to highlight the good things about Hitler, like, you're going the wrong direction already. So she's had some questionable moves in the past. She also closely aligned herself with Kanye West. At the time, he was engaging in all of this vile Holocaust denial. She is now affiliating with Norman Finkelstein, whom she had on her show, another person, Holocaust Distortion. Basically, all of the sort of alt-right extremists.
The who's who of Holocaust deniers or celebrators, which, funnily enough, seem to be the same people.
Yeah.
They deny it happened and then they celebrate it and say Hitler should have finished the job. Okay. And so what did she do anything specific in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah. I mean, she's been very anti-Israel. She's been very against this. She's accused Israel of killing Christians when, it turns out actually Islamic Jihad bombed a Christian hospital.
And also she's kind of dumb because didn't she say that the Muslim quarter of the old city, she thought people were closed in, like if it was a ghetto, Nazi-style ghetto?
Yeah, she didn't understand that the old city of Jerusalem has quarters that are not related to, like, ethnic segregation. Like,
it's historical.
She doesn't know what she's talking about. And as a result, she continues to spew anti-Semitic rhetoric and give a platform to Holocaust deniers and Holocaust distorters. And she's been warned about it. I mean, she works with Ben Shapiro.
Hey, why hasn't he fired her, Emily? Why hasn't he fired her?
Good question.
I really don't know. And it would be one thing if it was just her opinion is to, whatever, freedom of thought. I understand that they want to respect debate, but I mean, the things that she said just in the past few weeks are far beyond just debate. I'm not about that.
I applaud you for your choice of scumbag of the week. Ashira, who's your scumbag of the week?
My scumbag of the week is Gayle King.
Whoa.
She had...
Whoa.
Yes, Gayle King. We're going after Black women this week, huh? So, Gayle King had a parent of one of the hostages on, a father, and she was asking him questions about, well, what about the children in Gaza, and how do you feel about the Palestinian children and what's happening to them? She's speaking to a man whose young daughter, is kidnapped. And she's trying to be manipulative and twist his words. And I really hate that the Jewish people have to continue to qualify their sentences, that they continue to have to say, like, I'm very sad that our children were burned alive, that their heads were chopped off. And yes, I'm also sad what's happening to the children in Gaza. Why do we have to continue to qualify it? Obviously, it's sad what's happening to any civilian who has to, die, have a casualty in war. We don't need to keep qualifying that. And why would you sit across from a man whose daughter has been kidnapped by a terrorist group and ask him, what does he feel about these civilian casualties?
Did she get pushback, Ashira? Did she get pushback?
He responded and he said, I just want my daughter to come home. Because that's what a parent is thinking about. He's thinking about his child. So she just completely lacked tact, class, and compassion to me in that interview.
What, was there outrage in America by that, or did it just go through and you spotted it?
Well, the Jewish people were outraged by it, but it didn't pick up on any big news. I didn't see any big news organizations.
Well, thank God we've got the quad. Vivian, who's your scumbag of the week?
As usual, it's so hard to choose. And as usual, in this new world in which we live, Canada is just kind of outdoing itself, We have become this real glob of crap. So I've got another Canadian. Her name is Sahar Shahade. She attends Durham College, which, Durham is kind of 40 minutes outside of Toronto. So, for people like me, it's sort of whatever, small town. Total Toronto snob here. But, Durham College it's not like in the States. We have universities and colleges, so it's not a university.
Right.
It's definitely like a grade down, much more kind of, trade-oriented education. And she's studying some kind of biotech there, apparently. But what's important is she put out a video, and it went viral internationally. And I was watching clips this morning of news commenters all over the world, like just in disbelief. She's gorgeous. She's in hijab. She's very heavily made up. As my children pointed out, she's got lots of lip filler. And she delivers it like exquisitely. She's just, she's so rehearsed with this kind of affected, calm, very blasé about it all. I love Hamas. What they did was just like amazing, and repeating, from I can't even remember which Hamas leader it is, who said, we're going to do it again and again.
I support Hamas. History is made that day. Very proud of my people. Very, very proud. Would love it if they would do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again.
Like it's this kind of smoky
She's like sexualizing terrorism.
Yeah.
Totally.
Unbelievable.
And talking about this, we're just going to keep doing it. And I'm so proud. And we're made history. And, the reaction was swift and very negative.
Thank God.
The head of the college said, oh, yeah, bad stuff. We don't like this. But the fact is nothing's happened.
She didn't get expelled? She didn't get expelled, suspended, nothing?
Nothing. I'm going to keep looking into it because it's a live issue, but I've been following it online and there's been nothing. And worse, our prime minister, the fabulous Justin Trudeau, the other day came out after this incident, and there have been so many incidents like this. And he said, you people, you seem to forget we're a country where we celebrate freedom of expression and diversity. And I'm like, yeah, but this is actually criminal code hate speech, Justin.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you have not a single person has been arrested, never mind prosecuted.
Well,
no one has been arrested. And he stands back and sort of says, this is okay. This is not okay.
It's not okay, and it's easy to see why she's your scumbag of the week. And this week, Vivian, you'd be proud of me, I also picked a Canadian as my scumbag of the week, and I know we kind of sparred about this. I'm glad that you let me deal with a little bit of Canada.
Yes, I just want to make that point to the room that I deferred.
You deferred, you ceded, and I'm very grateful. And that is the lady called Samantha Pearson, who essentially was the sexual assault center, the head of the sexual assault center of Alberta, who signed a letter saying that the accusations against rape, violations against women, and violence against women were really not checked, not verified, and not really sure whether they'd happened at all. So again, this is not massacre denial, this is mass rape denial. And I'm very proud to say, Vivian, that the Canadian community did rally. The government got involved. They actually, from what I heard yesterday from some Canadians, they got involved in pushing the university to kick her out. And she got kicked out. So scumbag of the week with a happy ending, Samantha Pearson, good riddance to you. And now we are moving on to the positive part of the show, and that is Hero of the Week. And thankfully, however many scumbags are on this world, there are an equal amount of heroes, and thank the Lord for that. Emily, who's your Hero of the Week?
So, backing off of what you said about Samantha Pearson, on the flip side of that, there has been this campaign to hold the UN and women's organizations accountable for some of this massacre denial, rape denial that we've been seeing, that we've been dealing with. And one of those people who came out a few days ago was Sheryl Sandberg of Meta, or previously Facebook. They have not always been very good on these types of issues. It's an ongoing challenge, but I think it says a lot that we see someone of her status who as involved as she is in promoting women's issues. I mean, it's one of the things that I most admire about her. So to see her come out and unequivocally make this video that now has millions of views saying, like, this happened, it doesn't matter what your politics are. It doesn't matter if you support Israel or Palestinians or both or neither. Rape happened as a tool of warfare by a terrorist organization. Everyone should be against this. So I thank Sheryl Sandberg for that.
Well, hero of our week of Emily Schrader and all of us, Sheryl Sandberg. Shira, who's your hero this week?
My hero is Coleman Hughes. He is a thought leader of our time, a young man, and I just really, really admire the way he thinks. The reason why he's my hero is because he has come out in support of Israel, but from an academic standpoint. He also works for the Manhattan Institute in New York. So he is not pro-Israel or pro-Jewish because he's attached to Israel from a religious way or because he's attached to being Jewish. He has none of these attachments. He's an atheist. He has come to Israel on a 10-day trip. He has read all the literature. He has actually interviewed pro-Palestinian researchers and pro-Israel researchers. And the reason I love him is because he is coming out with simple thought. Like if you just simply think about this, you will clearly see who is the good guy and who is the bad guy. So I really like that it's coming from a thinker in our time and an academic in these times where academics tend to lean very left. Also, I really love him because he has said, listen, if you want to support Hamas towards the Black community, support Hamas, but don't ever mix the Palestinian liberation with the Black freedom struggle. And I'm very passionate about that do not mix our histories or our cultures together because it's not the same. Black Americans use the mechanism of peace to fight for our freedoms and our justices, and they're using the mechanism of terrorism. It's not the same at all, and he has come out and said that very clearly. So I love that we're having an academic support us.
That's a great point, because that doesn't do the movement of civil rights in America any favors to be compared to these, animals that tortured children. So I'm right with you there. Vivian, who's your hero of the week?
My hero is Michael Kirby, who's the spokesman for the NSC, the National Security Council in the U.S. And I'm so happy to see you nodding approvingly, Claire.
Yes.
So yeah, I should just stop there. Michael Kirby, it was a few days ago when he was briefing the press, and he came out and he said, just stop. You keep talking about and asking questions implying that Israel is committing genocide, ethnic cleansing, all these things. It's not. Hamas is the genocidal force in this equation. Hamas has said repeatedly, publicly, they state it in their charter, their goal is to annihilate Israel. That is genocide. Israel is defending itself. This is not a genocidal attack or operation. And he was just so much clearer and crisper than I was. If you can run the clip, you should run a few seconds of it. And why is that so important? Not just because he's a senior government official in America, which is, important ally of Israel, because words really matter. And, apropos, what Ashira was just talking about, I think the whole world that's supposed to be the thoughtful world, the West, has been seduced by thugs and thuggery.
So true.
They've been seduced by a complete abuse and misuse of language and concepts like genocide. It has a meaning, and it has a meaning for a reason. And these words are just getting thrown around. And Kirby was just like, no further. Let's have some discipline and integrity in this discussion. I think it was a very, very important moment.
I think you're 100% right. This is a war of words, and we're on the front lines of that particular war. My hero of the week is an incredible female politician called Asita Kanko, who is a Belgian politician. Originally, this lady's from Burkina Faso. And in fact, as a child, she suffered from female genital mutilation, FGM, which is something that happens in a lot of African countries. It's something that we should all be working towards eliminating. She's part of the AHA Foundation of Ayan Hirsi Ali, who we know, and who's an incredible female leader for many women's causes, especially for child marriage, which, by the way, people don't remember, happens in Gaza. Mm-hmm. Child marriage happens all the time in Gaza, and other abuses of young children and women. And this lady has been completely unequivocal in her calling out the European Parliament for, first of all, not saying anything. So at the beginning, there was a very famous video when she came out in the European Parliament and said to Roberta Metsola, who is the president of the European Parliament, why are you not talking about the massacre that just happened? This was a day or 2 days after October 7th. And 2 days ago, she comes out and she calls out, and this is a theme, I guess, all those women's organizations and says there's been mass rape, there's been violence against women, and again, why are all these feminist, so-called feminist organizations all silent? And so I take my hat off. It's not easy to be a minority woman in a European Parliament. She's doing an incredible job, and she's standing up for truth. So thank you so much. Asita Kanko, you're my hero of the week. And so on that note, we finish another episode of The Quad. Thank you so much to my incredible co-hosts, Emily Schrader, right here with me in the studio, Ashira Solomon, and Vivian Berkovich. We hope and we pray we get all our hostages home by the time next week comes. Thank you so much.